Hey you guys, it's Jana here and welcome back to my YouTube channel. This week for you guys, I'm starting a new series. As you may know, before I had a series on here called Drive With Me and I did a couple videos, but I decided I'm going to change the series to Car Talks. Just because I felt like when I was doing the Drive With Me videos, I was kind of supporting distracted driving and I don't want to do that. So instead, I'm just going to be doing little car talks, I guess, where I'm just sitting in my parked car just talking, telling story times with you guys. And if you read the title, then you know what this week's story time is going to be about. So I went on a blind date that was kind of bad, actually. So I'll give you some background information on how this blind date was kind of set up for me. So my dad's girlfriend works as a nurse at the hospital, and she has this security guard who works on the same unit as her, and she had been seeing him a lot, like in the past few weeks, and she was thinking, oh, like maybe this is someone that Jana would like to meet. Like he seems kind of interesting and fun. So like she was definitely doing me some favors with trying to set this up. So she came to me one day and she was like, so like there's this kind of cool security guard who works with me, like could I give him your number? Like he's around your age, he's tall, he's Christian, like I feel like you'd really like to get to know him. And I was like, well, yeah, sure, like I don't know, like this could be my future husband or something, I don't know. I always think like that and that's not great, but you know. So the next time that she sees him at work, she gives him my number, gives him my name, and a couple days go by and then I get a text from him. Obviously, I'm not going to say what his name is, but he texts me and he says that he'd like to go out for bubble tea sometime, and I'm like, oh yeah, that's great. Like I love going for bubble tea. And he picked this place that I'd never been to, so I was pretty interested to go. Now, I was a little nervous before I went because I've never been on like a real like blind date before. Like I knew his name, I knew a couple things about him, but I didn't know what he looked like. I didn't really know much of anything except for what my dad's girlfriend had told me about him. So I was really scared that I would walk into the bubble tea cafe and approach the wrong person or something, like thinking that it's him and it's actually someone else, just because I actually had no idea what he looked like. So that was getting me really nervous because I'm like, that would be embarrassing if I approached the wrong person and he's actually someone else. But I'll get into how the date goes now. So now it's the day of the date and I'm getting ready, getting all done up. And unfortunately, there is a blizzard going on outside. Of course, because I live in Canada, that seems to happen a lot. So I should have expected that to happen mid-November. But even though the weather was really bad, I really wanted to see this through and just see if there was anything actually here for me. So I start driving and it's crazy windy. The snow is just blowing everywhere. And it's a little icy on the roads too. Not like too much, but still, ice is kind of scary. So I'm like so nervous because I'm like, hey, I hope I don't get into a crash. I hope he doesn't get into a crash either. Like, I hope this is really worth my time because I'm driving in awful weather right now. So I get to the bubble tea place. Well, actually, I hadn't parked yet, so I was finding parking. It maybe took me like 15 minutes to find a parking spot just because that part of where I live is not easy to park in. It was kind of in the downtown area, so there's mostly just street parking. There's not that many lots, so I had to do a couple loops around to find a spot, which was kind of frustrating, but I got there, I got out of my car, it was still super windy. I was trying to hold my hair while I was walking inside the bubble tea place because otherwise my hair would have just been everywhere. I get inside and there's no one else there except for a couple ladies, so obviously I'm there first. So I usually don't like people to like pay for me on a first date either. Like I don't like when the guy has to pay, so I just paid. I ordered my drink and I sat down at a table for us. So maybe about 5 minutes later he walks in and I could just tell, oh yeah, this is him. He comes over, he introduces himself, he's very polite, he goes and orders his drink, and we sit down. So we start off having a pretty decent conversation. We're talking about places we've been and places we've traveled, places we want to travel as well. And then, maybe this is 10 or 15 minutes into the conversation, he wanted to start talking about politics. And for me, that's a big red flag. I feel like on the first date, it's best not to talk about politics. I think for a lot of people, that's like a rule because that's something that you can easily argue with people about. So it's best maybe to leave that conversation until later. But he wanted to talk about it, well, especially because that was the day that Biden won the American election. So we were already talking about it, so I just asked him. I was like, oh, like, so, like, did you want Biden to win, or were you wanting, like, Trump to win? Just because we were already in it, so I'm like, I may as well ask. And he doesn't really say whether he's, like, a Biden supporter or a Trump supporter, but then he starts making excuses for Trump and why he should have been reelected. And, well, I have a very opposite opinion of that. Just some of the stuff that he was saying, it's like I can't really agree with that, and that's why I don't like to talk about politics on the first date or first time you're meeting someone. But anyways, we move on from that, and our conversation, it kind of felt like very forced. Like, I don't know how to describe it exactly, but there wasn't like a natural chemistry between us at all. And like, I don't know, I could just tell quite early on that like this isn't someone I really see myself like being with or even being friends with, really. I think maybe he was a bit nervous too, and I mean I was nervous as well, but I think I could really tell that he was. Also, something that was kind of bothering me was it felt like he was in a rush. And I mean, if he actually had to be somewhere else at a certain time, he could have let me know. Because at one point he actually said like, oh, like, do you have to be home at any certain time? And I was like, oh no, like I can be home whenever. Like, when do you have to be home? And he's like, oh no, same for me. And then he had drank his bubble tea so quickly, like practically inhaled it. And I think he was bothered by the fact that I was still sipping on mine. Like, he made a comment. He was like, oh, like, is yours like the slushy kind? Like, I guess you have to wait for it to melt a bit before you can drink it. And I'm like, or some people, I don't know. Like, it was just really random. Like, I don't usually slurp down my drinks either. So, like, it really felt the whole time we were, like, sitting together that he was in a rush to get somewhere. Another red flag for me was that we didn't have very much in common. Like, I was trying to talk to him about like Netflix shows or like that kind of stuff, and I guess like it's not a problem, but like he didn't have Netflix. He hadn't watched a lot of the stuff that I was talking about. Like, I was saying like, oh, I really like to watch like The Office, How I Met Your Mother, like those kind of funny shows. Like, I watch those a lot, and I don't think he even knew what I was talking about at all, which is kind of a problem for me. Also, he was, he is 3 years older than me, so he's 23 and I'm 20. And just for like a 23-year-old, I think I was expecting someone a little bit more mature than me, and I almost felt like he was less mature than I am. Like, when he was describing to me what he does as a security guard, he was just saying, well, I just stand around and intimidate people. Like, it's pretty easy to do. Like, it just, the way that he described it, it came off as very lazy and kind of unmotivated. And that's, I don't know, like, even I'm more passionate about my job and I work in retail. So a little bit later, then he decided he wanted to get going. So again, it did kind of feel like he was rushing to get somewhere but didn't want to tell me where. So kind of weird. But so we left, and then we said goodbye at the crosswalk, and I walked to my car. And yeah, I was pretty disappointed because I was like, well, that was kind of a waste of my time. I feel like I sacrificed my life in the snow to go on this silly little date. But yeah. I mean, I take that back. I don't think that like socializing with people is a waste of time, but I think I kind of had like a little bit of hopes up that maybe this would be something that would turn into more, or even like someone I'd want to be friends with, and it was neither. So just a little bit disappointing, you know. And the next time that I saw my dad's girlfriend, she asked me, she was like, oh, so how'd it go? And I was like, oh, you know, like we didn't really click. It just didn't really work out like that. No worries, you know, 'cause she did me a favor. She really did. But yeah, next time maybe I'll try and find someone a little bit more my vibe. Maybe I won't do a blind date next time. Maybe I'll meet someone in person at first, and that maybe it'll be better. I don't know. I mean, I'm only 20, so I'm sure there's someone out there for me, and I haven't given up on love just because of this experience. But yeah, I thought this would just be kind of an interesting story time, something to talk about, just because it was kind of funny. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Car Talk. Yeah, that's what I'm calling it. Yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the first episode of Car Talks. And hopefully I'll have a second one for you guys in a while. I'll think of another story that I can tell you. And yeah, then we'll see how it goes from there. Thank you guys so much for watching this week's video. Please remember to like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of me, and I'll see you guys next Wednesday. Bye!